Everyone, we have done it. We have made it to module 4, or at least module 4 preview. So this is the video that Katrina and I have created to sort of sketch out what we'll be exploring in module 4 and what we're excited to discuss with all of you during the course. So Katrina, what's in store for module 4? That also rhymed. So you're welcome, everyone. Katrina?
In this module, this is sort of the sort of housekeeping module. This is where we're talking about, okay, we've probably identified a candidate or two candidates or three candidates that, we really want to move into, as Tim would say, landing the plane on this search. And so we're going to be talking about reference check process. And I'm sure that each of you will have sort of a different way that your organizations approach this and different kind of grounding for those conversations. And we've spent a lot of time thinking about this and have some ideas to share there about, what is really critical to hear from those third parties about the candidate, and how do you sort of line that up and think about that in the mix of everything that you've learned to that point already throughout the other interviews. We're going to be talking a little bit too about, okay, so hopefully we've identified a candidate and you're ready to move to that offer stage. What does it look like to frame and offer an invitation as a conversation about, what questions do you have? Can you imagine yourself in this role? And how do we make sure that the conversation that's had around sort of sometimes those like really kind of highly structured, processes that tend to be kind of secretive or, more sort of formal, that part of the process doesn't necessarily feel like a totally different conversation for the candidate and the organization, because that tends to be one of those things, right, where you have to do it in a certain way. And so how do we think about that and really think about how else that could feel, or how else we could go about that? Because really, when you're adding somebody to the team, it means there's some dynamics, right? And so that offer stage is often sort of the last stage before somebody comes in. And so they're going to be bringing the memory of the interviews and the memory of that conversation and the memory of all of the onboarding pieces that need to be sort of arranged for them into what will become, a welcome, a sense of belonging, the development of them as part of the team and the team sort of coming together. And so the other thing we're going to be talking about in this module is really around that sort of reimagining the team as a landing place for this candidate. When you add somebody new, it creates a whole new dynamic. And so you really do have to think about these points of intersection and these points of kind of coming together, and how, the hiring committee, for example, might be useful in having that orientation for the candidate coming into the organization.
This is the part of the process where I feel like it just can all go sideways on you, right? You've done all this work. You've done like the thinking around the job description, the knowledge, skills, and abilities. You've created this marketing campaign that's really attracted people to the role. You've been really thoughtful with like the interview crafting and the rubrics and the weighing of candidates and the candidate care. And then it's like you get to like reference checks, offer, let's get this person in, and it just can be like sideways. And then all that work sort of just gets negated. And so I think this really, I think it's really important to take this, like the process isn't done until this person has been fully onboarded. Yeah. Like this is how are you going to create maybe a 3-month onboarding process if you don't have something structured that connects with them and connects pieces from the interview process and questions back to like revisiting that with them and taking advantage of someone who's coming into your organization new, oftentimes with fresh perspectives, and being able to observe things that maybe those who have been in the organization for a longer time aren't anymore, or can't process as clearly. And so I think that's one of the really fascinating things for me about teams. Like you can have 6 people who have worked together for 20 years, and you add a 7th person in, and it fundamentally changes that team. Power dynamics can shift, how you communicate can shift, how you coordinate can shift. And so being really thoughtful about how do you not just drop this person off on their first day, say, here's your password for email, here's your laptop, and figure it out, but really live into why you put all this work into the process to begin with. So for me, that's the really exciting part about this phase. It's also the really challenging part about this phase, because at this point you're like, I needed someone, yesterday, last month. We're so close, and how do you not just sort of rush the last couple steps and get back to all of the other work that we know everyone has already brewing? And so that's really holding that tension in order to make sure the process lands in the place that is reflective of all the work and thought and resources you put into it.
It's kind of that end piece of candidate care, really, that this is the moment where that person moves from being a candidate to a team member. And so that cliffhanger, right, is see you next Monday, and they come in and they, don't know where the light switch is or whatever that might look like, right? But instead knowing, there are friendly faces in this organization that I've had a chance to get to know. There are, issues that this organization is talking about that I'm aware of, and I've had a chance to kind of think about and process. And so, where I can be curious, or where the organization can support, with context, helping me to land and start to move, and what those expectations are.
It is so crucial, especially now with remote work, with hybrid work, where someone's first day, first week, first month, they might not be in the same physical location. So when do they how do they show that they started working, or how do they, connect with people? And so really thinking through that before they get there. What are the norms of the organization? Explaining that so people, because you can't just look around and see so everyone eats lunch at their desk, or everyone goes to the kitchen to eat lunch, or whatever it might be. You can't sort of pick that up by maybe sort of what we used to be able to do when we worked in the same physical locations. So really being thoughtful about this process is really, I think, again, another great opportunity for us as a group to share, here's what we did, here's how we approach it, here's how we set up a core curriculum, and then take those learnings and figure out what it means for you and your organization. So that's our sketch for the full course. Thanks so much for watching the promo videos, and that's the end.